Hi all and welcome to a new video. Today we're going to be going over Warhammer the Old World, a game I've been playing on and off since its release. I am a human that was born too late to be a Tomb King's enjoyer until this last year thanks to Games Workshop. This is going to be more of a rambly video, kind of a little bit like my Legion Imperialis one, where I kind of just go over my general thoughts of the game. I have been playing Old World since release weekend, although I still have not painted more than one unit of my army. That is just because I have been prioritizing other games that I play more seriously. As a newbie to rank and flank games, my first impressions of Old World were it is extremely robust rule set. It has a very thick rulebook that makes a lot of sense and keeps a nice internal structure throughout. It has been over 8 months since I've read the rulebook cover to cover, so I don't have anything else really forefront on my mind about it, but I do really enjoy the formatting. I enjoy a lot of the diagrams. I enjoy how clearly things are laid out. And I enjoy that it is mostly rules and not a lot of lore and fluff. It actually feels like I get my money's worth with it. When the old world first came out, a few YouTubers were talking a lot about something called Linehammer. In my local meta, and due to the terrain setups we use, and just in general, 10 wide units not being anything wider than a 10 wide unit not really being viable to use in any way or format, I have not personally experienced any issues with this line hammer. And for people who don't know what line hammer is, the idea is you string all your minis out in one rank or one line and kind of use those to attack, since everything in the first line gets one attack. This is very hard to pull off, again, with a front higher than 10, and a 10 front is kind of generally what a lot of things settled into. I usually see an 8 or a 10 front, so it doesn't really feel overpowered because it's just what the game kind of feels like it's built for. I actually have a bit more of an issue with just infantry in general. Infantry is not as good as it should be. As a Tomb King's enjoyer, I know my skeletons are not supposed to stay still and, supposed to die really fast. And I have a tar pit block of 30 to 40 that I bring to almost every game because, well, usually I can just charge them and tie something up for a turn or two that's worth way more, and they'll kill a couple and it'll be fine. That being said, I feel like infantry should be able to do more. Elite infantry doesn't really feel elite enough. I don't really ever feel like I should bring my Tomb Guard, despite the fact I do it all the time, because they're not necessarily that much better. It's really just a tiny issue I have. But Linehammer, in general, not an issue. I wanted to just talk about this in this video because when I was first getting into Old World, a lot of people were talking about how Linehammer is going to be this really big bad thing, and no, 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 it's not. It's not, and it wasn't. And I'm happy it wasn't. After playing the game on and off for over a year, my general impressions are pretty favorable. The flow of the game is exactly what I want, and as a newbie to rank and flank games, despite my Conquest obsession, I still haven't been able to get a local group to get started with Conquest. This is good. Now, good is relative. Because it is older models, the models don't feel as well priced per dollar what they should. I think Games Workshop is overcharging on a lot of these, but that is kind of something that people have repeatedly said, so I'm only going to briefly cover on this. I have other things I really want to talk about. My biggest issue with the game so far is the not supported factions. All of the old Warhammer Fantasy armies that just got the rules at the beginning, ogres, lizardmen, skaven, vampire counts, chaos dwarves, demons of chaos, dark elves, all should have gotten full releases. I am hoping that they get them soon, and this is just all temporary. Talking about the factions not getting support and the main rulebook and all that, the big thing that I actually love about this system compared to a lot of other GW systems is everything actually feels pretty internally balanced. Like, it feels like all of these books were written by the same team, and you don't really get that with AOS or Warhammer 40,000, because it feels like an A and a B team on multiple of those, or an A, B, and C. This feels cohesive. It's a weird compliment for a GW game that a game feels cohesive, but it is very cohesively put together. Now, despite, like I said, minor issues with infantry, it's good. It's good. It's really good that I can say this, but it also makes me realize just how poorly written some of their other game systems are. Something else that could or could not be an issue is the release schedule. The old world has had a really weird release schedule. It's taken a long time to get pretty much anything out, and that makes it feel like a semi ignored game. It is not a game that Games Workshop is putting its full might behind. It is a specialty game, and that's okay. I'm actually pretty fine with it being a specialty game, especially since, like I said before, it means that the team actually feels cohesive and put together. This edition is not everything I wanted it to be. It is definitely not the best edition of Warhammer Fantasy Battles, but what it is a nice way for someone like me to enjoy this game that I never got to experience in its peak. Nostalgia for a time that I never experienced is pretty much what I'm trying to get at. Something that I get to have fun with. And I'm coming in on a very different viewpoint of a lot of people. AOS is one of my favorite Games Workshop games. It holds a special place in my heart. The models, the rule sets, the lore. But Old World captures some part of like tabletop wargaming's essence that I just really enjoy, and nothing else has been able to replace. The best way that I can describe that is that just nostalgia for a time that I never experienced. It has been really nice seeing all the new factions come out, and the new factions really just meaning all the old models being re released. It has been cool to see support for these items that I never thought I'd be able to see or experience. But on to a few criticisms. The price per model is too high. The new models, while looking really good, are usually resin, and resin from GW is not the best. And they still sell some metal models that they didn't turn into resin for some weird reason. All of those combined together make Old World a hard game to recommend. I am really lucky there are about 10 players locally, and those 10 keep up a decent amount of variety. Many of them use proxied models as well because they don't like the idea of GW models, but I'm a sucker for that old Tomb King aesthetic, and I just can't find anything else that looks that good, so I personally use a few 3D printed proxies along with the majority original plastic. But considering most of my army is what just came in the Tomb King starter box, I still managed to keep my run through pretty cheap, especially buying things off locally, which is something I try to emphasize in every single one of my Games Workshop videos. And this is my little plug. If you're getting into a GW game, don't do what I have done in the past. I mean, just watch my last Legion video on my complaining. Actually buy secondhand, buy 3D prints, don't buy all GW. Now, I personally usually make exceptions for GW boxes. The Tomb King's starter box was a amazing value for the money I spent. For $200, I got a lot of models, and that was more than worth it. I don't think you should buy the individual Tomb King models. If you can get the friendly local game store discount, maybe, but even that has a hard argue for the value you're actually getting out of it. Be very careful with GW games and make sure you don't overspend. Thank you for listening to my semi structured ramble this week. I promised myself I'd do at least every other week on YouTube, so this is just a video I made because I have had Old World on my mind of late. Next week will be slightly more structured, slightly more scripted, and be about my painting journey, and I'm hoping that inspires some of you. Have a wonderful weekend, all, and I'll see you all next week.